Hi, my name is Mercedes Thornton, and this is my presentation on Cleviceps the fungus. So Cleviceps is better known as ergot or rye fungus. So the word ergot actually comes from the French word argot, which is the spurs that grow off rooster's feet. And if you can see this, the mushrooms are kind of like a dark black purpley to an ombre, kind of orangey color. It's kind of hard to see on this blue background, but it is what it is. They kind of have the spur shape, like what the roosters grow, growing out of these wheat here. So although ergot is predominantly a rye fungus, it can grow on any of the cereal grasses. So that's things like oat and barley, wheat, rye, and then even some more like common grasses that are not edible. Well, yeah, they're still edible, but we don't typically eat them. Things like fescue and Kentucky bluegrass. So this fungus is sort of a parasite. So the spores will come in through the stoma of the plant, and they will make their way into the ovaries and will eat all of that genetic material that would have been there for the seed and the fruit to develop. Something interesting about the life cycle is that it doesn't actually infect the rest of the plant. So what it will do is it will take its spores and some of the sap from the host plant, and it will make its own honeydew, which can then be spread via wind dispersal or animals. This fungus is not edible. It is actually harmful when consumed. So when consumed, either when animals are consumed that have already eaten it or contaminated, or when contaminated plants are consumed, it causes a sickness called ergotism. So some of the symptoms of this sickness are things like mental abrasions, hallucinations, and the sensation of skin crawling. These sound really severe, however, it depends on which fungus of this species or of this family you've eaten and at what concentration you've eaten of it. So, although these symptoms sound really bad, there are chemical compounds or alkaloids that are present in this fungus that actually have medicinal uses. So several of these chemical compounds are an active ingredient in medications that help with migraines, help with Parkinson's, and cerebral dysfunction in the elderly. Another fun fact that I found for this fungus is historians and scientists believe that it may have caused the Salem witch trials. So thinking about the previously mentioned symptoms, they seem really similar to what these young women marked as witches back during the witch trials displayed. Things like, mental abrasion, hallucinations, just odd activities overall, the convulsions, the vomiting, all of that can be tied back to the ergot, or the rye fungus. As well as thinking about Salem at the time, the weather conditions would have been right, it would have been cool and damp enough. The harvesting and the post-harvesting practices were so outdated, as well as things like food safety and contamination rules. Not to mention that some of these women that were first marked as witches were oftentimes the cook, so they would have been the first ones to eat an animal that had contracted ergotism, or to cook or consume any contaminated wheat or flour. So with that being said, though, a few things that we can do to prevent the spread of this fungus in the wild are planting clean seeds. You can't have any fungal outbreaks if you don't have any fungus. Clearing out any of the wild grasses around your crop. So this is things like Kentucky bluegrass and fescue that could be on the edges of your field but still contract the fungus. As well as good post-harvest practices. So this is things like tilling any leftover crop or burning any leftover crop. Any fully matured crop can become infected and then spread to other crops nearby, any of your other fields nearby. As well as weeding out non-uniform stalks. So this is any stalks that are not maturing as fast as the rest of them, or maybe have contracted some other disease or any other sicknesses that would make them more susceptible to a fungal infection. As well as harvesting on time. You don't want to leave your crop that's ready to harvest there too long, otherwise it can become susceptible to the fungal infection. And then this is my works cited page and all my works.